Majority people have a fear or phobia which affects their day-to-day life. Here are some fears which affect nearly 3% of the world's population.
Phobia statistics reveal that 23% of all people with phobias seek treatment for their anxiety.
Fear of spiders affects 17,215,000 people, but only 12 of 40,000 spider species can actually harm you. 23,542,000 people have acrophobia, which is a fear of heights. 1 of 2 humans are born with this.
Acrophobia is the fear of open or crowded spaces and usually comes from an underlying panic disorder. Claustrophobia is the fear of confined spaces, and it is estimated around 10% of the UK's population are affected by this. The fear of lifts is relatively common and is often triggered by an existing phobia.
My main one is germs. I have to wash my hands all the time. I have to make sure that if I touch any surfaces that I know aren't clean or that I'm not 100% sure are clean, I have to wash my hands, or I use hand sanitizer. I'm really funny about it. I have to have a shower every day. I'm really funny about germs, and everything is there.
I'm scared of newspaper.
Yes, I do. I absolutely hate puppets. I hate them.
Yes, a massive fear of balloons. And there's a legit name for it as well, like globophobia or something, yeah.
I think I was about 13. Before, it wasn't really bothered me. I kind of just went around, did the usual wash your hands before dinner, wash your hands after you go to the toilet, stuff like that. And then when I was about 13, I think we had a weird lesson on bacteria and in science and about it growing, and then suddenly it just, in my brain, it kind of just went, you're scared of everything, germs. I'm like, oh God.
I can't remember exactly, but 4 years old, I remember going to a party, and then there's always balloons around me, and they got released from a net, and I just literally petrified myself so much. I was in my mum's arms, oh my God, balloons! And they're popping them, it's oh, my hands to my ears, I was so scared, but yeah. Yeah, definitely.
God. It's not as bad now. I think I was about 15 when it got really, really bad, and it was just I think for a good few months when I was about 15, if I'd touch a surface in school or something, or if I just couldn't do it. And now, even today, sometimes my mum asks me, can you go put the plates in the dishwasher and stuff like that, and I'm I want to puke when I'm trying to put dirty plates in the dishwasher. And then I have to wash my hands afterwards, and I sit there for about 5 minutes scrubbing my hands because I'm scared I'm going to get food on my hands, and it's really weird. But when I was about 15, it was really bad, and I'd be washing my hands after everything. I'd go through a bottle of hand sanitizer a day nearly, and it was crazy. But now it's kind of mellowed down. I still have that weird thing about trying to put stuff in the dishwasher though. I can't do it. My mum yells at me for it. I'm like, no. Yeah, I have a little bit, in the sense of I try to make sure that if I'm in someone's home that I try not to be that awkward person who just stands there and refuses to sit down, so I'll probably sit on the edge of the sofa until I get a bit more comfortable, and just ease myself into it a little bit. And if it's one of them places that's really super dirty, I probably won't go back there again. But if it's a place that's the average of clean, it's not spotless, if it's the average of clean and that I know this is how it should be, because even though it's not mine, I will try and adapt to it and try to make sure that I know it's clean and touch the surfaces and try and get over it. It's mellowed down a lot more now since I was about 15. Like I said before, sometimes it's only some little things that I physically can't do. I don't go through a bottle of hand sanitizer a day. I go through about a bottle of hand sanitizer in a week. So I think I'm slowly improving, but there's some things that I just cannot get over.
I think growing up, like, you kind of mature to it, so, like, you learn to get used to going to parties and stuff. Obviously now I'm 18, it's like, I'm not going to let balloons stop my fear. Like, the fear of balloons stop me, like, going out. You kind of learn to deal with the situation, but I can't pop a balloon or have, like, the sound anywhere near me because I'll just crap myself so much. But being around them is fine. That's debatable. So debatable. I would. I mean, I would like to get over it because it's a bit of a ridiculous fear, but it's a legit one at the same time. So, and it really does trigger me. My heart like drops the minute you say balloon. It triggers me. Okay.
Yeah, I guess, because even though I've been used to my fear for like 4 years now, I know that in the future it's going to get annoying because I'm going to be faced with all these different surfaces and areas where I'm going to have to touch stuff that I know is not necessarily going to be clean and that I probably need to touch. So I know that that's going to be an issue in the future. So yeah, I guess like overcoming it now is probably a better time than any to make sure that in the future I can face those fears and not make a fuss over it in a way, if that makes sense. Yeah, I get anxious quite a lot. I'm not like diagnosed with anxiety or anything, but I do get anxious quite a lot. I'm quite known as a warrior, but I do kind of like get nervous about a lot of things, and I guess in a way I get nervous about touching surfaces and putting stuff in a dishwasher.
Very anxious. Like, I worry about the smallest detail, and my mum's always like, "Oh, stop panicking," but it's just inside me. Like, I'm very anxious as a person.
We are psychological wellbeing practitioners in an IAPT service, and that essentially means we treat people with common mental health disorders like anxiety, depression, phobias, panic disorders, a real broad range of things that happen to a lot of people.
It's quite a complex process because trauma is actually something that is obviously very horrible that can happen to somebody and can have really negative consequences, and they'll react to it in a certain way. With traumas, they're usually quite ingrained. They leave an impact on somebody, and a phobia is something that might be considered as quite specific, but also a phobia is an irrational fear of something. So a trauma would be actually quite a consistent and a solid belief. It could be a number of things really. So one of the things is fears can be learned. So for example, if a child sees a parent who's scared of spiders, that child will likely associate that experience with fear themselves. Yeah. So yeah, there could be a biological or genetic component where people, it's passed on through families. So some people are generally more anxious than others, which will then make them more prone to situations like Lauren was describing where they're generally quite anxious, on edge, and then something happens, like they associate that fear or that trigger in that environment with the actual response itself, which then makes them believe that they're in danger. And essentially that's all it is your body feels like it's in danger. A response, the adrenal response switches on just like that in a situation where you probably shouldn't be reacting in that way to, and that's when you learn from there that that you should be fearing this situation because it made you feel like you're in danger, you're at risk of being at harm. Yeah, especially if it's a phobia. Yeah, it just depends on the fear really and the phobia, because a phobia is something that does get in the way of your life. So fear would be something that something's quite grotesque or something gives you shivers, but a phobia is something where you have a real rational fear that completely takes over your life to the point where you cannot do that activity. In which case some people might not be able to go outside at all, some people might not be able to drive cars, and that completely impacts their ability to carry out the work that they do or any other everyday things.
Yeah, I definitely find one of the most common ones is usually transport related, whether that's driving or getting on the bus, getting on the tube. So in terms of being able to go to work, if you can't travel, you're stuck, and a lot of people end up getting isolated, and then their phobias escalate and get a lot worse. So in my experience, I've worked with the more common phobias, things like spiders, things like driving, confined spaces.
And then you have some phobias and fears that are actually quite obscure and a lot of people won't really understand. So I've worked with somebody before who has a fear of bananas, which is a really weird and isolated kind of phobia on the outside, but actually this person had a real ingrained fear of bananas to the point where they couldn't function if they had one in the room, or if they even saw a picture of one at one point. So this is a really, really weird kind of phobia, but actually with a bit of work they were able to get over it eventually. It wasn't very clear as to why they had that phobia, but we kind of broke it down and we thought that maybe it was to do with the colour or maybe the texture, because there could be a number of different things that might be contributing to it. But essentially a lot of people would call that weird.
Yeah, so that question refers to something that we would call generalised anxiety disorder. So it can start from the tiniest little thing that you end up feeling under threat about or afraid of. And then it just starts to spill over into other areas of your life. So you may get someone who has had a particularly stressful couple of weeks and they're feeling very anxious over what's going to happen in the future. And then they find that because they're anxious about work specifically, then they're all of a sudden really anxious about their home life and they're really anxious about their children. Actually, did I check that door? I can't remember if I checked that door. And it starts to really build and build and build into a generalised anxiety disorder, which is quite different from phobias and fears, but it usually starts in the same place of a small thing and that builds up.
So we start from the baby steps. For example, they might start with exposing themselves to something small that might be slightly related to the actual main phobia. So if somebody has a fear of snakes or spiders, then they might just look at a picture of a snake or a spider before they can move on to the next step. And there are 4 conditions to that. So the first thing is they'd have to repeat that for a few times so they can understand and learn that they are safe in that environment. Also it has to be prolonged, so they have to actually have a full anxiety response, in which sense they'd have to sit there for quite a while and expose themselves to that situation before they can understand that the anxiety will drop. The other thing is also it has to be graded, so it has to be starting from small, like I said, baby steps. You can't just flood them with the main difficulty, otherwise that's just quite counterproductive.
Probably one of the main misconceptions is that if you just face your fear, you'll get over it.
Yeah, you can't do that because that's just really counterproductive. It will just cause them to actually probably have a worse response than they initially imagined. And then lastly, it'd have to be without distractions. So they have to do something without, say, headphones to listen to music, or with somebody, so they can't take somebody with them when they're facing their fear. They have to face it alone. The main concept of exposure is understanding that they'll be safe, because fears and phobias kind of stem from the fact that they don't feel safe, and that anxious response kind of backs that idea up, that they are feeling unsafe, because they get all these horrible symptoms. So you've got your heart pumping and everything like that, which then causes them to feel unsafe. So once they're exposed to that situation and they learn that actually they can deal with it, then it's absolutely fine. They can move on and they can cope in that situation. And then from there we just build them up and we keep grading them until they can finally face their fear. So their confidence builds over time.
Germophobia can be a life-altering fear and can lead to other illnesses such as depression and anxiety.
Ready?
myself grab.
No! Where am I? Why am I here? Oh, that's Frank! Yeah, it was horrible.
Did you expect to go to a place like that?
No, I expected to be a little bit nicer. That was horrible.
Do you think you conquered your fear of germs now?
No. I thought I'd where I was like, oh yeah, as I've grown older, I've kind of like learned to touch on like surfaces and stuff, and where I said that, I think I just brought it back. Oh my god.
People who have globophobia feel morbid fear at the thought, sight, touch, or even smell of balloons, but most people have this fear due to the sound once the balloon pops.
Oh my god. Okay. It's like, there's a balloon, guys. There's a balloon on the table. I've never actually touched a balloon before. Like, I've touched it, but I've never like blown it up. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. How do you even do this? Oh my god. Don't do too big. Don't do too big. Don't do too big. Reduce it. Oh my god. Fuck. I can't. I really can't. I actually can't. I really. Fuck this. Nah. No, seriously, like that, like fucking nails, like, fuck this. Nah, cause static electricity in it, like, pops balloons. Like, nah.
Let's hold it.
What if I just like poke it?
Just try and pick
Does
it
that
up.
count?
Yeah,
If I like poke
touch
it. Okay, there you go. Like, I've
Try and
touched
hold
it.
it.
My hands are well sticky, like, what if it pops? Okay, I've touched it. Make it fucking squeak. No, because what if it pops?
It's not.
Like, it's gonna fucking pop. Like, trust. Like literally, look. Like, look at this. Don't laugh. Like, nah. Nah. Fucking. Oh my god. Oh. Fuck my life. I actually feel like fucking crying. Please. I could touch it, but that sound, I've shit my pants. I think there's legit feces in my underwear. I think my anxiety is like thinking about it too much, overthinking like that. I shit myself, but now after it, I'm like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but in the moment, it shits the life out of me. But I think it's me more having anxiety going into like a party or something, seeing a balloon, and then thinking how I'm gonna react when it pops. I need to stop that, I think. So tell me think about that more. 10, 11 if there was like legit. That was so unexpected. Like it went bang and I was like, I literally thought it was this balloon here. You guys snaking me like behind, like jeez. Was not expecting that.
I mean, everything that he's gonna do. Scared, but I like being.
Okay. Oh my god!
Do you like scary movies?
Do they smell fear? Does he know that I'm afraid?
You're doing great. You have to be scared. I mean, right?
Oh my god!
Nothing.
Oh my god!